Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into something pretty amazing, the secret philosophy hidden inside one of the most famous cartoons of all time. I'm talking, of course, about that endless, disastrous, and absolutely brilliant chase between Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
I mean, think about it. It seems so simple, right? You've got a hungry coyote, a super fast bird, and the coyote fails. Every single time. So how on earth did this one little gag last for decades and become this huge cultural icon? Well, the answer? It's way more structure than you'd ever guess.
Oh yeah, we all know the scene. That barren desert, right? And then you see it. That familiar wooden crate from the ACME Corporation. It's promising something amazing. Rocket skates, giant magnets, you name it. And we all know what happens next, don't we? A puff of smoke, that long fall, and a perfectly flat, very disappointed coyote.
So you look at that and you just think it's pure slapstick, just random chaotic fun. But the guy who created it all, the absolute legend Chuck Jones, he had a secret weapon, something that made the whole thing click just perfectly.
And here's the secret. What if I told you none of this was random? Not at all. This whole comedic universe, it was meticulously built on a foundation of super strict, totally unbreakable rules. Think of it like a creative constitution. And that's where the genius comes from.
Okay, so Chuck Jones and his team, they came up with these 9 simple rules. But simple doesn't mean they weren't important. They were sacred. They governed every single Roadrunner cartoon. These weren't just suggestions, they were the law. And here's the crazy part. These very limitations are what made the whole thing so incredibly creative.
So these rules basically set the stage. For example, the Roadrunner. He can't ever harm the coyote. It's always the coyote who brings about his own downfall. There's no random bad guys showing up, no outside force, nope. And every single gadget has to come from that one, let's be honest, famously unreliable supplier, the Acme Corporation.
All right, let's zoom in on a couple of these rules because they are just fantastic. We'll start with what might be the most brilliant one of all, rule number 8. It sounds so simple, but man, it's deep.
Okay, so Rule 8 says, whenever possible, make gravity the coyote's greatest nemesis. Just think about that for a second. That is masterful. Instead of some complicated bad guy, Jones made the villain a universal force that every single one of us understands deep in our bones. We've all fallen down, right? We've all dropped something. By making gravity the real enemy, the comedy just works for everyone, forever. It's timeless.
All right, and that brings us to rule number 9, which is every bit as important. This rule, this one gets to the very soul of the cartoon and why we kind of feel for this poor guy. Rule 9. The coyote is always more humiliated than harmed by his failures. And that right there is the heart of it all. It's why we can laugh when he plummets off a cliff, because we know he's not really going to be hurt. The real damage, it's to his ego. I mean, this guy calls himself a super genius, but he's constantly being defeated by his own gadgets. It's that humiliation that makes it funny, and it's what keeps us rooting for him just a little bit.
So, why do these rules work so perfectly? It's because they're not just random rules for jokes. No, every single one of them is there for a reason, to serve and to explain one thing, the character of Wile E. Coyote. And listen to this quote from Chuck Jones himself, because it explains everything. He said the coyote is a fanatic, and a fanatic is one who redoubles his effort when he has forgotten his aim. Wow. See, the coyote isn't just hungry anymore. He is completely obsessed. The goal isn't food, it's proving he can win. That's why he doesn't just go buy a sandwich, right? He has to win. And that fanaticism, well, that's his tragic and absolutely hilarious flaw.
Let's put it this way. Wile E. Coyote always makes the first move, right? His whole story is driven by that obsession inside him. Now compare that to another Chuck Jones character, Bugs Bunny. Bugs almost never starts the trouble. He's just trying to chill, munching on a carrot. He just reacts when Elmer Fudd or Yosemite Sam show up. You see the difference? Bugs is who we wish we were. Cool, calm, and always in control. But the coyote? He's a little closer to home. He's a reflection of our own silly, obsessive quests.
So, let's step back for a second. What does all this mean for us? For anyone trying to create anything? A cartoon, a business, a book, whatever. It all boils down to one thing, having a clear, consistent vision. It's like you're making a promise, a contract with your audience.
See, when you stick to your own rules over and over, you build trust.
Your audience, they start to learn the laws of the world you've made, even if they don't realize it. They know the Roadrunner isn't getting caught. They know gravity is just waiting around the corner. And that consistency is what makes something totally unbelievable feel, well, believable. It's why we keep watching.
You know, Chuck Jones had this amazing, simple definition of what creativity even is. He said it's just the artful rearranging of known things. Think about that. He wasn't inventing stuff out of thin air. He was taking things we all know, a coyote, a bird, a desert, gravity, that feeling of obsession, and he was just arranging them in a new, clever, and hilarious way. All inside the box created by his 9 rules.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? It's that discipline isn't the enemy of creativity, it's actually the foundation for it. When you set clear limits for yourself, it forces you to be more inventive, not less. Those rules you create build a world that your audience can believe in. And most important of all, if you know the deep down why behind your character or your idea, that's going to guide every single decision you make. And that really just leaves us with one last question to chew on. Wile E. Coyote's entire universe was built on 9 simple rules. So what about you? What are the essential, unbreakable rules that could define your project, your work, your passion? Because figuring those out, that might just be the key to unlocking your own brand of genius.